Now, I spent a lot of time with a variety of different cameras, either as a DP or an operator on certain projects. I've been blessed to be able to use a bunch of different systems, but one I haven't used in a significant fashion is actually the ARRI camera. Now, a lot of people praise ARRI for its image quality, dynamic range, and the fact that it's pretty much used all over Hollywood, but it's one camera that I haven't had a chance to use. Now, coming up, I do have a shoot where I will be a camera operator on the Alexa Mini LF, and one thing I don't want to do is honestly utterly embarrass myself not knowing how to use this thing. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to learn a camera before you actually get to a shoot. There's some things you can do at home, there are some times you're going to need to call a little bit of help, and at the same time you might need to call a lifeline in order to make sure that you're prepared, but we'll get to it. Now, fun fact, I didn't know this. If you want to try to use ARRI cameras or at least learn how to use the menu system, you can just go to the ARRI simulator on their website. The more you know. Now, what you can do on here is you can play around with some of the menus depending on the different ARRI cameras you actually have on you. Now, I'm going to be using the Alexa Mini LF in a couple of days, and we are going to show you what it looks like on the XT, but it gives me an opportunity to see how the menus actually work and to kind of get a lay of the land exactly where things are. It's nice that there isn't a time limit. You could spend as long as you want on there to make sure that you're familiar when you're in front of the camera. But overall, understanding this menu system isn't as intimidating as I thought. A lot of the similar things that are going to be on other cinema cameras are definitely on the ARRI system. But one thing that I kind of convinced myself of is that some of the language around some of the terminology might be completely different. So maybe I want to find something that's open gate, for example, and it might be called something else and I don't know where it is. But it's actually pretty easy to understand and pretty straightforward. Now, I am going to leave a link in the description down below if you want to try out the ARRI simulator. I didn't know that this existed. Someone in my community post told me. Actually, a few of you told me, the community post. But one of the things you want to do when you're getting used to new camera systems is getting used to the menus. Because if you know how to use a camera inside, well, then it only leaves to figure out how to use the camera on the outside. We're actually going to do that now. I've never seen that before. Like, you're from Oshawa, and I'm proud. Like, with pride, I've never heard anyone be like, "Oh yeah, you're from Oshawa." I'm like, "That's lower your voice."
Yeah, we're used to it. Everybody's like, Oshawa, and you're like, "No, dude." It's
like lower your voice. Like, if someone called me like, "You're from Oshawa," I'm like, "Lower your voice, please." Okay, so Manic is actually a local DP here and also an ARRI owner. Now, you have the ARRI Alexa XT.
Yes, yes.
It's not so much the LF, but a lot of things are going to be similar. So if you're someone that's prepping your camera, even if you have a camera that's in the same family, there's a lot to learn here. Now, first of all, thank you for letting me use it. Yeah, I've learned a ton. How complicated is the ARRI system if you're a first timer? Like, is there a big learning curve, or is it very much the same as everything else?
It's easy. It's extremely easy. It's easier than a phone. Like, it's absurdly easy. That was the part that I enjoyed the most, actually, because it's basically designed to get out of your way.
Without going into an entire rig build video, you built yours up in a particular way. Now, A, do most people have so much customization with the ARRI cameras? And B, just tell me a little bit about how you set yours up for your style of shooting.
Yeah, so overall, everybody has their own, again, like, it's your body, right? You build your camera to suit your body, how you use it, what you're shooting. So, yeah, everybody has their own custom build, but there are a few standard configurations that just work. Like, the XT system is pretty much all in one, so you're not gonna have to do too much. It's mainly like, are you gonna have your eyepiece on it? Where are you going to put a monitor if you have an additional one? If you have handles of some kind, where are you going to put them? And then that's basically it. If you're using an easy rig configuration, there might be another handle or something like that.
And
it's pretty solid.
Just for context, the XT is not light. Would you ever like handheld that, no easy rig?
It'd be a bad idea. I mean, I value my back, so
you're saying I shouldn't do that?
I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, if you absolutely had to for a minute or so, sure, but long term, or if you're trying to walk around or navigate, don't bother.
Now,
yeah.
Kind of segueing to how important, then in that case, like how important is the rigging and support with a camera like this? Because usually you could take out like an FX3, shoot all day, not need a lot of support.
Exactly.
How important, how much of a role does that play into something like an ARRI camera?
It's massive. So, you know, you're running with a tripod, a hi-hat, which is like a mini tripod, and an easy rig typically. If you want to move the camera around, it's a bigger ordeal. Like at its base, like stripped down, it's around 15 pounds by itself. That's not even batteries or anything like that. Built out, my kit sits at about 38 to 40 pounds. So that requires some support. You're gonna need a great tripod. And yeah, if you're moving around, walking around, you'll definitely need something more hefty to protect you.
And it also sounds like, and I think it's understandable because the ARRI's expensive cameras. It feels like everything else gets more expensive as you.
Yeah, it can. It definitely can. I think in my case, I planned years out. Like I knew eventually I'd like a heavier system. And I gradually got pieces and I sourced them effectively. eBay's awesome. You know, it does a lot. Finding people around your city. We're fortunate to be in the Toronto area. So we can source equipment or get things from other people that are more affordable instead of paying list price. But those things make it a bit easier. But yes, even still, there are things that are just much more expensive because you're dealing with different demands.
Yeah. So what Manic's doing right now is he's actually showing us one of the batteries that you need for this. Now,
yes,
the rigging is different, but also the power demands because it's such a big, powerful system.
Yep.
What's that?
This is a 420 watt battery. This one is hefty. It will last about more than 4 hours on the Alexa XT. If you ran a smaller camera, like a Pocket 6K or something off of this, you'd probably run a day and a half.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like. Yeah, VMAP batteries or gold mount are the standard. They just hold a lot more power. They're great. But I knew that I didn't want to be swapping batteries. I have a shark fin, which allows you to kind of mount 2 batteries on the side and swap them, like hot swap. But I knew that I wanted to run the camera longer. I wanted full days. And yeah, I picked up 2 of these. And they're
so 2 of these would probably power the XT for the whole day.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
About 8 hours.
Yeah. Now, with that, unfortunately, I don't think you could travel with those.
Nope, you cannot fly with these.
So that is a consideration, which I guess makes the workflow, I guess, for ARRI cameras and travel a little bit different. You either have to, I'm guessing, go to a rental shop while you're there and pick up batteries, or like, well, like in a situation, say for example, you have to go to a place that doesn't have a rental shop. Would that be a place where you would still bring a camera like the XT, and how do you go about that?
You can travel with 150s. I think depending on the airline, of course, everybody's a little different. So depending on the airline that you have in your area or wherever you're traveling, they will allow different limits on your battery capacity. So I'd say check with each provider, each company, and they usually have a thing on their site that says you can carry X amount of batteries over a certain size. Your 100 to 98 watt, I think those ones, you don't really have much of a limit on that. But the 150s that are a bit bigger, you'll have to either let them know or, you know, sort something out. And then for these ones, definitely not. I mean, you may be able to get certain permissions if you reach out well in advance. But the other alternative is basically either sourcing them locally or shipping them.
What would be the single most important thing to know making that transition?
Single most important thing to know, that it's not really much different than any other system you're going to be dealing with. Like there's a bit of an aura about it where it seems like it's something where it's massively different. You're going to have to learn a ton of new things, but it's actually much, much easier than any other camera system. The menus are just designed so it just, as I said before, it just gets out of the way. You don't have to think about it too much. Everything kind of just works. That's the biggest point of ease when it comes to this stuff. And that's kind of what they put into the design of it. They just wanted it to be smooth. You know, they came from film initially, and it's like, you know your settings, it's very simple, not much changes. With the digital cameras, there's a little bit to learn, but it's not that much. It's really just like, if you know how to shoot, you can shoot. And the image just tends to be closer to what you're looking at anyway. It's actually easier to use because you don't have to fight against the image as much. You know,
so it sounds like I guess the summation is like the bigger, more intimidating the camera system feels, the easier it is actually to use, wrap your head around.
Yeah, because they're professional tools, right? Yeah. Like you're going to the high end where their priorities are the best image and the most reliable camera.
Yeah.
Right. So they set you up in a way where it's like, okay, if you need it to work, it will just work.
That's perfect. Now,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was a new experience for me, and I know, like, even owning that camera, it is there's always a kind of inkling of like, I'm taking this expensive camera out, what can go wrong, kind of thing. So thank you for lending the time. If you guys want to check out Manic's channel, I've been on him for a while to actually start doing YouTube and talking more about this stuff. He's an amazing DP. He's really good at color. I'm gonna pick his brain about color.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to follow his journey just like you're following mine. So I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. But yeah, you heard it first from someone who owns an ARRI camera. It's not the craziest, most hardest thing to learn in the world. But if you learn how to shoot, it just makes that shooting experience that much better.
Now, we're going to do try to demystify Lucas, and you might be familiar with him on the Condor Blue side of things, but what you guys might not know is Lucas, and you might be familiar with him on the Condor Blue side of things, but what you guys might not know, which also says to why a lot of the rigging parts make a lot of sense for filmmakers. Now, Lucas is going to be directing this film that we're going to be shooting on, and one of the things I want to get a sense of. Lucas is going to be directing this film that we're going to be shooting on, and one of the things I want to get a sense of is not necessarily all the tech specs of the camera, but also the aspects of the shoot that I need to be aware of. Lucas, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. I guess it's not the same time as it's 10:30 for me and it's probably 7:30 for you. My first question is, tell us a little bit about the scope of the shoot. I don't want to leak the script yet, but just tell us how big this shoot is and all the things that are involved.
Yeah, there's a lot involved. I'm directing and producing this one, and that means that today was kind of wild. I'm balancing calls from booking porta potties and RVs for the location to talking to horse wranglers and armorers to decide on what kind of explosions we want and how long we want the fuse to last for the dynamite explosion, and then booking actors, and it's Airbnbs. It's just kind of crazy, and then having to go back and look at the shot list to make sure we got the shots we want. So there's a lot involved. This shoot is going to be a 2-day shoot out in White Horse Ranch. It's out near Landers, California, kind of close to Joshua Tree, actually, Yucca Valley. It's got a really cool location you guys will check out and see soon. But there's a lot going on with horse stunts. There's, like I mentioned, there's an explosion. We have a lot in interiors as well, a saloon scene, and then even added last minute a revision to the script to add a little nighttime campfire scene that will be lit mostly by the fire. As you'll find out, Brady Bassett and Brittany Janae are going to be taking on the DP roles, each of them one day. It's a 2-day shoot, so one of them is going to DP the first day, and the other one's going to DP the second one. And they're going to be very different days, because the first day is mostly exteriors and day exteriors. The second one is mostly day interiors, and then we have the exterior night campfire scene. So it'll be cool to see what they do with the lighting. Obviously, we're all working together here, so we're all going to be talking and making decisions together, but it's going to be fun to see them in that role as well.
Now, I don't think people that are watching this fully understand how big this shoot is. How many people are going to be there? It's going to be hot. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer than the first one, so we're not waiting outside at nighttime all day long. But how big is the scope of this shoot?
It is going to be a little bit opposite of last time, where we were freezing on set, and this time we're going to be probably sweating all of our clothes off. But so to put into perspective, last shoot we had about 30 people on set, including actors and crew and behind the scenes crew and, you know, caterers and all that. This time it's almost double the size. We have 55, maybe coming on to 60 people that are going to be on set. And that's just because there are so many aspects to it, right? We have to have, we're shooting guns and we're shooting blanks, and there are a lot of prop gun action as well. But there are a couple of scenes where we're going to be shooting blanks, which require live guns. So we have to have an armorer there, make sure they check all the certifications, that they know what they're doing. They've been licensed by California, have proper security and safety measures in place. We have stunts where people are jumping onto horses and taking off and galloping, which means a lot of people to wrangle horses and to put all that together. And then the general crew that we have just for shooting a film. So in terms of like scope of how big, I would say it's maybe a little bit bigger than your typical independent film production out here in Hollywood, but not by much, because I know there'll be some areas where we'll still wish we had more people.
Yeah, like from my world, like 6 is a party. So I'm like, that's a lot of people that I have to learn names of, which will be fun. I want to bring it back to the shot list, and just as a camera operator, things that I have to keep in mind, because when you don't know the scope of a shoot and you kind of learn things on the day, there might be stuff where, from a safety perspective, or just making operating easier, which I have to keep in mind if I don't know where everything is. Now, we've already identified we're shooting a lot in the desert, right? So just from a don't pass out in the desert when you're operating a large camera, you want to dress light. So having the scope of the shoot is important, and asking your crew is, and just getting an idea of how long the days are, right? If one day is going to be fully daytime exteriors, well, then you have to know, like, hey, like Kofi, make sure you're dressed for that weather. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make the actual operation of the camera and also just make your life easier. I don't think the Alexa Mini is going to overheat. It'd be weird if it did, but to keep those things in mind.
ARRI really stands for reliability when it comes down to it. And obviously, they have high price tag on everything, but it's one of the main reasons is because they're reliable. So I've shot a ton of camera systems, and in different climates, in the snow and in the desert and hot summer climates. But Alexas have always been known to be reliable. So I'm not expecting anything to happen on this one. To be honest, the Alexa Mini and the original Alexa is what I've shot most with in terms of ARRI. I have yet to try the 35 on any project, and the LF actually will be the first time we use it. I had so many projects where the LF was potentially in the mix, but we ended up choosing the Venice over the LF. And so this will be the first time actually using the LF, the Mini LF, but I've shot a ton on the Mini, the regular Alexa Mini, and I've never had any issues with it, where I can't really say the same for some other camera brands just because they're built like tanks. So, but you, on the other hand, might be overheating because it's going to be like 95 degrees, which is what in Celsius? I don't even know. 30 something?
I don't even know what that conversion is. I just know it's going to be hot. But we're also like, we're out in the open. It's a desert. So I feel like it might be not as humid. And if it's not humid, I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
I might overheat, but I'm also like, I'm from Africa. Like I could, you know, I might be okay. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Back into the shot list of things. And that's where I hear shot lists. And I think maybe because sometimes I also DP as well. The first thing I'm thinking about is shot lists are like almost problems that you have to solve in your head on how you want to shoot them. Now, how important is it that the operator also has to know the shot list so they know, hey, this sounds like I'm going to be shooting a lot of easy rig, or I have to make sure that I'm like at least a little bit more familiar with like shooting gimbal, or just prepare to shoot gimbal. Can you kind of give me a overview of kind of what types of shots there are on each day? I don't want to give away the story. I think it's going to be really cool. But are we more sticks? Are we more gimbal? Are we more handheld? Like, what are some of the things that myself can be like, hey, just make sure that like you're solid on some of these different shooting techniques and styles?
Yeah. So when I do shot lists, I do include what the support of the camera will be, whether it's going to be sticks or jib or a dolly or handheld. I'll mark it HH for handheld. So every shot will be marked, and I usually, for camera operators, they don't see the shot list until usually the day of or the night before. Obviously, with the DP, we've talked about shots in advance. The camera operator, mainly I want them to have the shot list as soon as we get to set so they can prepare the gear with their team, with the first AC, second AC, everybody on the camera team, to make sure it's ready so that we're not slowing down and no one's waiting on camera team to be able to get the next shot out. So if we know we're going from handheld to then going on sticks, or if we need to pull the jib out, we got to build the jib and get the grips to help build the jib. So that's one of the main reasons I'll put it on there so that we know. And then obviously when I'm working with the AD, we kind of try to group some of those shots together so we're not constantly switching from handheld to jib to dolly to gimbal, whatever. We kind of keep them all grouped together so we don't have to change so much. But in this film, I mean, there's going to be a good amount of handheld, and I know we were even talking previous there, trying to figure out some sort of easy rig situation. Luckily, we have the support of Boca Rentals out here in Los Angeles, which have been great. So I'm sure they're going to hook us up with something for you to be able to hold that camera in the hot desert for a good part of the day. Because day one will be mostly, I don't know if I can say mostly, but a lot handheld for day one, because that's where all the action is. We're doing explosions, we're doing gunfights, horses, and we want the camera, the energy to kind of transfer through the camera and keep up with the energy of it all, make it exciting. So there's gonna be a lot of handheld. There's a couple establishing jib shots, not very much, and then definitely some stick stuff when we're inside the saloon on day two. So it's also cool to have completely stationary shots, because that can make you feel uneasy when there's some suspense or someone's pointing a gun at you or something. So kind of hold some shots longer than you'd think and make it feel kind of weird. So, Well, in this film, we'll be jumping around from different setups.
Perfect. That's my style of shooting, for better or for worse. I'm usually a handheld bandit, but I feel like these larger cameras, I'm like, I can't go without support. I don't think it's safe. I tried it. It's not a good idea. I think the last thing to kind of round the circle, and also, again, this whole point of this is to kind of demystify some of these larger shoots where you're using larger cameras, you're working with a crew. We have, can we talk about the lenses we're using for this one?
Yeah.
So we're using some of the Atlas Mercuries.
Right.
So it's a big setup, right? And to the naked eye, someone might be like, holy crap, I wouldn't know what to do with that. But I think the whole thing is it's business as usual, right? Be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the support you need, be aware of the type of shoot it is, like talk to your crew and kind of get an idea, so you're not going in and you're like, oh, holy crap, we're in the desert for how long? And I got to do what? You know those things, right? So I can do things like make sure you hydrate, make sure you dress for the weather, those type of prep things. So then when you go in, you could still be stressed, but you can't be confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to be prepared, and a big part for camera operators is actually what they wear. Funny enough that you keep bringing that up, it is actually important. Like, what shoes are you going to wear? You're the one, walking around the desert with the camera the whole time, and have some nice solid shoes or boots that you're going to be wearing. Several changes of shirts potentially for changing out if you're sweating through it, whatnot. And then having your kit of tools, right? Obviously you're going to have this tool. But,
yep. I might have somehow have more than 3 of them. I don't know how it happened, but I might have 3 somewhere in my house. I don't know how it happened, but they're there. But yeah, making sure that you have the right tools for the job, right?
I think if there's a general consensus of things is the fact that if you have a bigger camera, it's actually not as scary as you think. Sometimes when you see these big gigantic rigs or you see things on Hollywood sets, it oftentimes gives a little bit of an anxiety because you might just be shooting on a smaller camera package and not necessarily know how to join point A to point B. Now, thankfully, ARRI does have an online simulator you can use. You could also lean on your creative community and ask people locally to borrow or rent out their gear in order to learn. And as well as you want to talk to your crew if you're going into a situation where you might have to shoot with this thing, even though you don't necessarily know how to use it just yet. Now, this might have not been the fanciest video in the world, but this is actually going to be part of a series showing behind the scenes of working on a bigger set as a camera operator. Now that I've done a lot of the research and the things I wanted to do before I get off the set to camera prep, well, we could talk about prepping your camera, rigging your camera out, making sure everything fits, and making sure that we actually go one more step further to making sure you're prepared for a bigger shoot. That being said, if you guys want to see that video, it's probably going to be over here when it comes up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.